The Grandeur Hotel ballroom shimmered like a jewel box. Crystal chandeliers cast fractured light across champagne flutes and diamond necklaces. Conversations floated on expensive perfume and self-congratulation. Richard Ashford stood at the center of it all. His silver hair caught the light just right. His custom tuxedo fit like armor. Around him, investors and politicians laughed at jokes that weren't funny because his net worth demanded it. Maya Torres approached with a tray of champagne. Her white server's uniform was pressed sharp. Her name tag caught the light. Her face carried the practiced neutrality of someone who'd learned to be invisible. Ashford took a glass without looking at her. He switched to Spanish mid-sentence, his voice loud enough for his circle to hear. "Look at this one. Probably cleans toilets when she's not serving us." His companions laughed. These people never amount to anything. Good for labor, nothing else. Maya's hand steadied the tray. The glasses didn't tremble. Her expression didn't shift. But behind her dark eyes, something sharp and cold clicked into place. She moved to the next guest. Ashford kept talking, his Spanish fluid and cruel. "I bet she doesn't understand a word." They never do. More laughter rippled through his circle. Maya said nothing. She simply served. She simply listened. She simply remembered every single word. The chandeliers above seemed to dim slightly, or perhaps that was just the shadow crossing her face. 3 years Maya had worked at the Grandeur. 3 years of blending into wallpaper, of hearing conversations people thought she couldn't understand, of swallowing indignities with champagne bubbles. She'd taken the job when her mother got sick. Cancer doesn't care about dreams or linguistics degrees. It only cares about bills, endless crushing bills that insurance barely touched. The Grandeur paid well. Better than translating documents. Better than the community college where she taught ESL on weekends. Well enough to cover her mother's treatments and her own tuition. Well enough to make invisibility worth the price. Maya spoke 5 languages fluently. Spanish was her first, learned in her grandmother's kitchen in Oaxaca. English came next, then French, Mandarin, and Arabic. Languages were architecture to her, structures of meaning that most people only saw the surface of. Her grandmother used to say, "Language is power, mija. Not just speaking it, understanding it when they think you can't." Tonight's gala celebrated Ashford Industries' Diversity and Inclusion Initiative. The irony tasted bitter. Maya had served these events before. She'd heard the speeches about opportunity and equity. She'd watched executives congratulate themselves for doing the bare minimum. The ballroom buzzed with wealth and influence. Everyone wore their importance like cologne. The mayor was here, state senators, journalists from business magazines, all gathered to celebrate a man who just called her worthless, in a language he assumed she didn't speak. Maya refilled water glasses along the back tables. Her phone sat in her apron pocket. The recording app had been running since Ashford's first slur. She'd learned this trick from her work with asylum seekers. Documentation was everything. Words could be denied. Recordings couldn't. Her hands moved automatically. Water, wine, champagne, repeat. Her mind calculated something else entirely. Around her, the gala continued its performance of progressive values. Above her, the chandeliers cast their indifferent light. Ashford called for another whiskey. Maya approached his circle with the bottle. His face was flushed with alcohol and self-satisfaction. He turned to his CFO, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses. The Spanish flowed easily, loosened by bourbon. "Marcus, this diversity initiative is brilliant. We get the government contract, the activists shut up, and we don't actually have to change anything." Marcus smiled thinly. "The optics are perfect. Better than perfect." Ashford's voice dropped conspiratorially, but not enough. "The diversity budget? I've been routing most of it through our Cayman accounts. Why waste $50 million on programs that don't increase shareholder value?" His circle leaned in. A board member, elderly distinguished, chuckled. "Richard, you're a genius. They'll never trace it. They can't trace what they don't look for. Ashford gestured expansively. We hire a few for entry-level positions, parade them at conferences and pocket the rest. The contract gets renewed. Everyone wins. Except them, Marcus said, nodding toward Maya. They're not real stakeholders. Ashford took his whiskey from Maya's tray without acknowledgement. Look at her. This is what they're capable of. Serving drinks, cleaning rooms, manual labor. Why pretend otherwise? The group erupted in laughter. A woman in ruby-red silk covered her mouth, shoulders shaking. A venture capitalist in cobalt blue slapped Ashford's shoulder. Maya set down the bottle, her movements precise, her breathing controlled. The phone in her pocket captured every word, every laugh, every casual admission of fraud. Ashford continued. The beauty is they're too grateful to question it. Give them minimum wage and basic benefits, they think we're saviors. He raised his glass. To diversity, most profitable scam in modern business, they toasted. Crystal clinked. Maya stepped back into shadow. Her grandmother's voice whispered in memory. They reveal themselves when they think no one's listening. Tonight, someone was. Maya made it to the service corridor before her hands started shaking. The door swung shut behind her, muffling the gala's orchestral soundtrack. Harsh fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The corridor smelled like industrial cleaner and cold metal. She leaned against the wall, the rough texture grounding her through her uniform. Her phone felt heavy in her pocket. She pulled it out. The recording app showed 47 minutes. 47 minutes of evidence. She pressed play. Ashford's voice emerged crystalline and damning. These people never amount to anything. She stopped it. Her thumb hovered over the delete button. It would be so easy. So safe she could go back to invisible. Back to the survival that had carried her mother through 2 years of treatment. Her mother. Maya thought of her in the care facility, sleeping under thin blankets. Thought of the bills on her apartment table. Thought of every time she'd been told to know her place, accept her station, be grateful for scraps. Her grandmother had died cleaning houses for families who never learned her name. She'd worked 3 decades in silence, sending money home to Oaxaca, teaching Maya Spanish in stolen moments. Silence protects you, mija, her grandmother would say. Then she'd add quieter, but truth frees everyone else. The corridor's fluorescent lights buzzed louder. Somewhere in the building, kitchen staff shouted orders. The gala music filtered through walls, something classical, something expensive. Maya looked at her phone, at the recording that could destroy a billionaire, at the evidence that could also destroy her mother's immigration status, her job, her carefully constructed safety. She thought about Ashford's face, the casual cruelty, the absolute certainty that he'd never face consequences. She thought about the 50 million in stolen funds, the diversity initiative that was really a fraud scheme, the government contract built on lies. Her finger moved away from the delete button. She saved the recording to 3 different cloud services. Then she stood up straight, smoothed her uniform, checked her reflection in a metal panel. The woman looking back at her wasn't invisible anymore. She walked back toward the ballroom. The music grew louder. Her phone stayed in her pocket. Her decision crystallized with every step. Maya grew up translating. At 6, she interpreted for her parents at the Social Security office. At 10, she explained medical diagnoses her father couldn't understand. At 15, she accompanied neighbors to immigration hearings. Language wasn't just communication. It was survival. Her grandmother arrived from Oaxaca when Maya was 8. She spoke only Spanish and Zapotec. She cleaned houses in wealthy neighborhoods, while Maya's parents worked construction and hotel housekeeping. Every evening, her grandmother would cook and teach. She'd tell stories in Spanish, then make Maya repeat them in English. Learn both perfectly, she'd say. Then they can't make you choose. At 18, Maya started volunteering with an asylum seekers organization. She translated testimonies, stories of violence, persecution, desperate border crossings. She learned that the powerful always assumed the vulnerable couldn't understand them. Immigration officials spoke freely in English around Spanish-speaking families. Lawyers used technical jargon to confuse clients. Employers discussed documentation is revolution, her linguistics professor told the class. Record everything. Language is evidence. Maya kept that lesson. She documented 3 separate discrimination cases at the grandeur, helped co-workers file complaints with the labor board. 2 cases settled quietly. 1 manager was fired, but those were mid-level managers. Ashford was different. He had lawyers that cost more than her annual salary. He had connections to the governor, the mayor, half the city council. He had wealth that made him functionally untouchable. Her mother used to work 2 jobs, hotel cleaning in the morning, restaurant kitchen at night. The cancer started in her lungs. Too many years breathing chemical cleaners in poorly ventilated rooms. When the diagnosis came, Maya dropped out of graduate school. She took the grandeur job. She became invisible to pay for her mother's visibility, her right to treatment, to medication, to more time. Now her mother was stable. Not healthy, but stable. And Maya was 6 months from finishing her degree. 6 months from the life her grandmother dreamed for her. Ashford's recording could change everything, or end everything. The question was which. Her grandmother's rosary sat on her dresser at home, the beads worn smooth from decades of prayers. Maya wasn't particularly religious, but she'd kept it anyway. Sometimes the most powerful inheritance isn't money. Sometimes it's the lesson that silence can be strategy, not surrender. Maya's studio apartment glowed with laptop light at 3 a.m. Coffee had gone cold in her mug. Search results multiplied across her screen. Ashford Industries, $50 million government contract for minority business development. Announced 6 months ago with great fanfare. Press releases praising their commitment to diversity. She clicked deeper. Public filings showed executive demographics. 83% white, 91% male. Only 2 people of color in leadership, both in non-decision-making roles. Their website showed different numbers. 40% diverse leadership, 23% minority-owned contractors. Beautiful photographs of smiling employees in every shade. Maya cross-referenced names. The diverse leadership included receptionists and HR coordinators. Not executives, not board members, not anyone with actual power. She found the investor presentations. Charts showing the diversity budget allocation. $50 million over 5 years. Programs for mentorship, scholarship, recruitment, promotion. She found news articles. Ashford Industries, a model for corporate inclusion. CEO, Richard Ashford wins Humanitarian Award for Diversity. Work, how one company is changing the face of business. Her recording played through her earbuds. I've been routing most of it through our Cayman accounts. She searched offshore holdings, shell corporations, Byzantine financial structures that led nowhere and everywhere. She wasn't a forensic accountant, but the pattern was clear. The money wasn't going to diversity programs. It was disappearing into accounts that shouldn't exist. Her pulse quickened. This wasn't just racism. This was federal fraud, contract fraud, possibly money laundering. She opened tomorrow's event schedule. The grandeur was hosting another gala. Ashford was receiving the National Business Ethics Award. The ceremony would include the mayor, 3 state senators, and a keynote from the Secretary of Commerce. Press would be everywhere, cameras, live streams, national coverage. Maya's hands hovered over the keyboard. She could send the recording to journalists, to federal investigators, to anyone who'd listen, but who'd believe a waitress over a billionaire, who'd risk their career on her word against his lawyers. She needed more than audio. She needed corroboration. She needed someone who already had credibility, resources, power. She searched, investigative journalists, corporate fraud. One name appeared repeatedly, Elena Rodriguez. Former Wall Street Journal, now independent, known for exposing Fortune 500 corruption. 3 major exposés in 5 years. Maya found her contact form. Her fingers hesitated over the keys. This was the moment. Once she sent this, there was no invisibility left. The recording played again in her ears. Ashford's laughter. His casual certainty that he'd never face consequences. Maya began typing. Outside her window, the city prepared for dawn. Inside, she prepared for war. Elena Rodriguez called at 6 a.m. Maya answered on the first ring. I listened to your recording 3 times. Elena's voice was sharp, alert. This is incredible. But I need to ask, are you certain about what you're doing? I'm certain about what he did. That's not the same thing. Papers rustled in the background. I've been investigating Ashford Industries for 8 months. Offshore accounts, fake diversity metrics, contract fraud. Your recording confirms everything I suspected but couldn't prove. Maya's chest tightened with something that felt dangerously like hope. So you believe me? I believe the evidence, and I believe we can destroy him. Elena paused. But you need to understand he'll come after you hard. These people don't lose quietly. I know, do you? Really? Eleanor's tone softened. I've seen whistleblowers lose everything. Jobs, reputations, sometimes their freedom. Ashford has lawyers who specialize in making problems disappear. Maya thought of her mother, of the bills, of the safety she'd built so carefully. What's the alternative? You walk away, delete the recording, go back to invisible, and he keeps stealing, keeps lying, keeps winning. Elena was quiet for a moment. Tomorrow night's award ceremony. I can have the story ready by then. We drop it during his acceptance speech. Maximum impact, maximum witnesses. The press will be there. The mayor, state senators. Maya's mind raced through the logistics. Exactly. He can't control the narrative if we control the moment. Elena's keyboard clicked rapidly. I'll need corroboration. Financial documents, internal emails, anything that backs up the recording. I can get access to his office computer tomorrow. He always leaves it unlocked during events. That's risky. Everything about this is risky. Maya looked at her mother's photo on the nightstand. But it's the right risk. Okay, Eleanor exhaled. Send me everything you have. I'll start building the case. By tomorrow night we take him down. For the first time in days, Maya smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was something sharper, harder, forged in fluorescent corridors and swallowed rage. Tomorrow night, she repeated. The call ended. The sun rose. And Maya prepared for battle. The email arrived at 10 a.m., subject line, Cease and desist. Maya's blood went cold, Ms. Torres. It has come to our attention that you have been communicating with certain parties regarding Ashford Industries. We represent Mr. Richard Ashford and his business interests. Any recordings made without consent are illegal in this jurisdiction. Any dissemination of proprietary business information constitutes corporate espionage. The words blurred. Her hands shook. We have evidence of your communications with Ms. Elena Rodriguez. We have documentation of your unauthorized access to company systems. These actions violate your employment contract and multiple criminal statutes. Her breath came short. Furthermore, we note that your mother, Maya Torres, is currently residing in the United States on an expired visa. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has been notified of certain irregularities in her status. The room tilted. You have until 5 p.m. today to confirm deletion of all recordings and termination of contact with Ms. Rodriguez. Failure to comply will result in immediate legal action, including but not limited to criminal charges and deportation proceedings. Maya's phone clattered to the floor. Her mother. They knew about her mother. About the expired visa that they'd been trying to renew for months, caught in bureaucratic limbo. She tried calling Elena, straight to voicemail. Tried again. Nothing. Her apartment walls seemed to close in. The laptop screen glowed with Ashford's lawyer's letterhead. Expensive, intimidating, absolutely certain of their power. Outside, the city continued its indifferent rhythm. Cars honked. People walked to work. The world kept spinning while hers collapsed. She called the care facility. "This is Maya Torres. Is my mother Miss Torres?" The nurse's voice was tight. "Immigration officials were here this morning. They asked a lot of questions about your mother's status." Maya's knees buckled. She sat hard on the floor. "Is she okay?"
"She's scared."
"She's asking for you." The phone buzzed. "Unknown number." Text message. "They can't silence what they don't know is coming, trust me." Maya stared at the words. Trust. The luxury of people who haven't watched their mothers cry over deportation threats. Her grandmother's rosary sat on the dresser. The beads her grandmother had clutched during her own immigration struggles, during the years of fear and invisibility. Another text from Elena. "I know what they sent you. I'm going dark for 24 hours. Don't respond to them. Don't delete anything. Tomorrow night we end this, promise." But promises meant nothing against deportation, against losing her mother, against the crushing weight of power wielded without conscience. Maya looked at the cease and desist letter, at her mother's photo, at the recording that could save or destroy everything. The award ceremony was tomorrow night. Ashford would stand on stage and accept praise for values he'd mocked in Spanish. He'd smile for cameras while threatening a waitress's family. She had until 5 p.m. to decide between her mother's safety and everyone else's justice. The clock on her wall ticked toward the deadline. Maya sat on her apartment floor for 2 hours. The cease and desist letter glowed on her laptop. Her phone stayed silent. Eleanor's promise hung in the digital void, weightless, insubstantial. She called the care facility again. "Can I speak to my mother?" Her mother's voice came through, small and frightened. "Mia, what's happening?" "The men in uniforms, they asked about my papers, about you." "Mama, it's okay. I'm handling it." The lie tasted like ash. "You sound like you're crying." "I'm not." She was. Your grandmother used to say that silence keeps us safe. Maybe she was right. "Maybe we should just—" Her mother coughed, the wet rattle that meant her lungs were struggling. "Rest, Mama, I'll fix this." "How? How do you fix men with power and badges?" Her mother's voice cracked. "I don't want you to fight battles that break you, Mija. I want you safe." The call ended. The apartment swallowed her in its silence. Maya looked around her studio. The tiny kitchen where she'd cooked meals while studying. The desk where she'd written papers at midnight. The mattress on the floor where she'd dreamed of a life beyond survival. She'd built this life carefully, invisibly, safely. Ashford's threat could erase it in hours. One call to ICE, one criminal charge. Everything she'd protected could vanish. Her grandmother's rosary caught the afternoon light, the silver cross worn smooth from decades of prayers. She picked it up. The beads were cool and familiar. "What would you do?" She whispered to the empty room, but she knew. Her grandmother had stayed silent, had worked and prayed and survived by making herself small. She died invisible, having protected her family the only way she knew how. Maya had inherited that survival instinct, that careful calculation of risk versus safety, that understanding that the powerful always win when the vulnerable fight back. She opened her laptop. The delete button hovered under her cursor. One click. The recording gone. Ashford victorious. Her mother safe. Outside her window, the city darkened into evening. Somewhere Ashford prepared for tomorrow's award ceremony. Somewhere Elena built a case that might cost Maya everything. The rosary beads moved through her fingers, counting prayers or counting losses. She couldn't tell the difference anymore. Her grandmother's voice echoed, "Silence protects you." Mija, but the rest of that lesson whispered underneath, "Truth frees everyone else." Maya closed the laptop without deleting anything. She wasn't sure if that made her brave or foolish. Maybe there wasn't a difference. Elena surfaced at midnight. She appeared at Maya's door wearing a dark hoodie, carrying a laptop bag and 2 coffees. "I'm sorry I went dark. They were tracking my phone." She pushed past Maya into the apartment. "But we're good now." "Better than good. My mother is safe." I got her transferred to a different facility under protection from the Coalition for Immigrant Rights. Pro bono legal team handling her visa renewal. ICE can't touch her. Elena set up her laptop on Maya's kitchen counter. Ashford's lawyers made a mistake threatening her. That's witness intimidation. Federal crime. Maya felt something unknot in her chest. How did you... I've been doing this a long time. I know people. Elena pulled up files on her screen. More importantly, I found the financial proof. Ashford's offshore accounts. The fake diversity expenditures, everything. The laptop displayed spreadsheets, bank statements, internal memos. A paper trail of fraud so clear it was almost beautiful. This came from his CFO, Marcus Chen. Elena tapped the screen. He got nervous when he heard about our investigation. Decided to flip before the ship sank. He's cooperating? Full immunity deal with the FBI. He's been skimming too, but he's willing to testify against Ashford for leniency. Eleanor scrolled through documents. It's all here. 50 million in diversity funds. Less than 4 million actually spent on programs. The rest laundered through shell corporations. Maya studied the evidence. Numbers that represented stolen opportunity. Stolen futures. Her recording had been the key, but this was the entire lock. Tomorrow night's ceremony, Elena continued. You're going as my +1. Not as a waitress. As a guest. I got us tickets through a tech CEO who hates Ashford. He'll recognize me. That's the point. Eleanor's smile was sharp. He'll see you in the audience and wonder what you're doing there. He'll be distracted, anxious. And when he takes that stage to accept his ethics award, we play the recording over the ballroom speakers. What about his lawyers? The FBI will be outside. The moment the recording plays, they move in. Arrest warrants are already prepared. Eleanor pulled up another file. Bank fraud, wire fraud, contract fraud, witness intimidation. He's looking at 20 years minimum. Maya's mind raced through the logistics. The risks. The possibilities. What do I need to do? Wear something that makes you impossible to ignore. Sit in the front row. When he sees you, don't look away. Let him know you're not invisible anymore. Elena closed her laptop. And when the truth plays, watch his world end. Maya thought of her grandmother, of her mother, of every person who'd been told to stay quiet, stay small, stay grateful for scraps. I have a dress, she said. Emerald green. I've been saving it. Perfect, Elena stood. Tomorrow night we don't just expose him. We show everyone that power isn't protection. That wealth doesn't mean immunity. That a waitress with a recording can topple an empire. Maya picked up her grandmother's rosary. The beads felt warm now, charged with purpose. Tomorrow night, she repeated. Not a question. Promise. The grandeur ballroom looked the same as every gala. Crystal chandeliers, designer gowns, the carefully orchestrated theater of wealth and influence. But Maya walked in through the front entrance this time, not the service corridor. She wore her emerald green dress, the one she'd bought for her college graduation before her mother got sick. Her hair fell in natural curls. Her grandmother's rosary was wrapped around her wrist like a bracelet. Elena walked beside her in ivory silk. You ready? No, but I'm doing it anyway. They took their seats in the third row, close enough to be seen, close enough to watch everything. The ceremony began, speeches about business ethics and corporate responsibility, awards for companies that claimed to care about communities they exploited. The usual performance. Then Ashford was introduced. Please welcome Richard Ashford, CEO of Ashford Industries, recipient of this year's National Business Ethics Award for his groundbreaking diversity and inclusion initiatives. Applause filled the ballroom. Ashford walked to the stage in a perfectly tailored navy tuxedo. His smile was practiced, humble, radiating false warmth. Maya's hands gripped the armrests. Eleanor nodded slightly. Everything was ready. Ashford reached the podium. Thank you for this incredible honor. I accept this award on behalf of everyone at Ashford Industries who believes that business... His eyes swept the audience. They landed on Maya. He faltered. just for a second. Recognition flickered across his face. Maya held his gaze. Steady, unflinching, not invisible. Ashford recovered. As I was saying, true leadership means creating opportunities for those who... Elena pressed a button on her phone. The ballroom speakers crackled. Then Ashford's voice filled the space, his real voice drunk and contemptuous. Look at this one. Probably cleans toilets when she's not serving us. These people never amount to anything. The room froze. Every conversation stopped. Ashford grabbed the microphone. This is fabricated. His recorded voice continued. The diversity budget? I've been routing most of it through our Cayman accounts. Why waste 50 million on programs that don't increase shareholder value? Gasps rippled through the crowd. Phones came out, cameras started recording. This is edited, taken out of context. Ashford's face flushed red. Maya stood. The spotlight found her. She walked to the stage stairs. Mr. Ashford, she said clearly, do you remember me? He stared at her, recognition and fear warring on his face. I was the waitress serving you last week when you said these things. She held up her phone, the screen showing the original recording with timestamp. I speak Spanish, fluently. My grandmother taught me. The projection screen behind Ashford lit up. Elena's doing. Financial documents appeared. Offshore accounts, fake diversity expenditures, the complete paper trail. This shows where the money actually went, Maya continued. 50 million in government funds for diversity programs, less than 4 million spent. The rest stolen. The mayor stood from her seat. State senators whispered urgently to aides. Journalists surged toward the stage. Ashford's attorney rushed forward. Don't say anything. But Ashford was beyond listening. You're just a waitress. Nobody. You have no right. I have every right. Maya's voice cut through his rage. I'm Maya Torres. My grandmother cleaned houses for 30 years for people who never learned her name. My mother worked 2 jobs until she got sick from breathing chemicals. And you stole money meant to help people like them. The ballroom doors opened. FBI agents in dark suits entered from both sides. Richard Ashford, the lead agent, called out, You're under arrest for wire fraud, bank fraud, contract fraud, and witness intimidation. The room erupted. Reporters shouted questions. Cameras flashed. Ashford's attorney tried to shield him, but it was too late. The empire he'd built on exploitation and theft was crumbling in real time. Maya stepped back from the stage. Eleanor appeared beside her. Around them, the gala dissolved into controlled chaos. Ashford was led away in handcuffs, his face contorted with rage and disbelief. He kept looking back at Maya, the invisible waitress who'd destroyed him. She met his eyes one last time, then she turned away. He wasn't worth watching anymore. 3 months later, Maya sat in a federal courtroom. Her testimony was the final piece of the prosecution's case against Ashford. Miss Torres, the prosecutor said gently, please tell the court what you heard that evening. Maya recounted everything, the racist slurs, the admission of fraud, the casual certainty that he'd never face consequences. The recording played for the jury, every damning word. Ashford's lawyers tried to discredit her. They questioned her motives, her methods, her right to record without consent. But the financial evidence was insurmountable. Marcus Chen's testimony corroborated everything. The paper trail proved the theft. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Ashford Industries collapsed within a week. The government contract was revoked. Executives faced their own charges. The company dissolved into bankruptcy proceedings. Maya's mother received full medical coverage through a civil rights settlement. The immigration lawyers secured her visa renewal. She moved into a better facility with real windows and afternoon sun. The Grandeur Hotel offered Maya a promotion to guest relations manager. She accepted on one condition: mandatory anti-discrimination training for all staff, developed and led by people who'd actually experienced workplace racism. She also helped establish a legal fund for service workers. Documentation training, access to lawyers, resources for people who'd been invisible too long. Elena's article won the Pulitzer Prize for investigative journalism. She split the monetary award with Maya. 6 months after the trial, Maya walked across a stage in a different way. Cap and gown, master's degree in linguistics. Her mother sat in the front row crying happy tears for once. Maya looked out at the audience, thought of her grandmother, thought of every person who'd been told their voice didn't matter. She touched the rosary on her wrist, the beads warm with memory and promise. After the ceremony, a young woman approached her, another service worker trembling with her own story of discrimination and fear. Maya listened, took notes, helped her file the report. The work wasn't finished. It never would be. But invisibility wasn't survival anymore, it was a choice. And Maya chose to be seen. They say silence is golden. They're wrong. Silence is what happens when power goes unchecked, when wealth becomes immunity, when cruelty operates without witnesses. Silence isn't peace, it's the sound of injustice winning. Maya learned early that powerful people reveal their truest selves when they think no one important is listening. Ashford made that mistake. He saw a waitress and assumed irrelevance. He heard her silence and mistook it for acceptance. But Maya's grandmother had taught her something more profound than silence. She'd taught her that listening is active, that understanding is power, that documentation is revolution. Every language, Maya learned, was another key to understanding how people hide their cruelty. Every silent shift she worked was an opportunity to witness the truth behind performed values. She wasn't invisible. She was underestimated. There's a difference. Ashford built his empire on a simple assumption that the people he exploited would never have the means, the courage, or the platform to challenge him. He thought wealth and connection made him untouchable. He forgot that empires built on theft and lies are fragile. They only need one person brave enough to hold up a mirror. Maya didn't just expose one racist billionaire. She exposed a system that protects powerful predators. She revealed how diversity initiatives become profit schemes, how institutions choose power over justice, how silence gets weaponized against the vulnerable. Her grandmother's final wisdom echoes through everything that followed. Truth doesn't need permission, Mija. It only needs a voice. Maya found hers, and in finding it, she reminded everyone watching that justice isn't reserved for the powerful. It belongs to anyone brave enough to speak, to document, to refuse invisibility, even when invisibility feels safer. The chandeliers that once illuminated her humiliation now light a different story, one where silence ends, where truth demands an audience, where a waitress with a recording and a grandmother's rosary can topple empires. Ashford sits in a federal prison now. His wealth couldn't buy immunity. His lawyers couldn't erase evidence. His power evaporated the moment his own words played back to him. And Maya? She's no longer